Cooking with Kimberly, brought to you by RB Community Church. We love our church, we love our community, and the College of the Bible, an education ministry of RB Community Church.
Hi, I love cooking, and my hope is you will too. Come join me in my kitchen, and let's have some fun cooking with me, Kimberly. Hi, welcome back to this episode of Cooking with Kimberly. Today we're going to be making a simple Thanksgiving dinner for your family that you've already been cooking for all year. And since we're only supposed to be having family that we live with, the tendency might be not to make anything really fancy, but you still want it to be special because we do have a lot to be grateful for. So we're going to make a very simple dinner that is going to be a baked brie appetizer. Very easy, sounds harder than it is. We're going to make a from scratch cranberry sauce. It's almost as easy as making it out of a can, honestly, and it tastes so much better. And then we are going to have the traditional green bean casserole with a little bit of a twist. I've altered it so that everybody in my family really enjoys it. I'm going to talk about some stuffing. We have a turkey. We're going to make a couple of pies and some mashed potatoes and gravy. So let's get started with this puff pastry. I buy puff pastry in bulk, so I have a lot of it, but there's all kinds that you can buy at the store that are easier to deal with this, and you can just cut them. Sorry about the glove. I tried to cut off my finger, see what it would feel like. Since maybe we are having family that we don't live with or friends that are close by, we're pretty sure that even though it's just supposed to be family, there's the temptation to have friends over, and I understand that. So to help promote safety, just in case that's what happens for you, we're going to make these little individual bries. So this is the one that I made that I would normally make for a party or a dinner, and it's just one little cheese wheel, brie cheese wheel, and I wrap it in a puff pastry and I decorate it a little bit and put an egg wash on it. So this one, we're just going to spray these really quickly. I have a non-stick pan, and I'm going to put in this puff pastry in here. And this is something that is just really neat. And the thing that's really nice about making them individually is that maybe different people like different flavors. Everybody likes brie, right? I mean, they have to. So we're just going to roll these out. Maybe I should have used my tortilla press, huh? And you can also use phyllo dough. This is really easy. If you didn't want to use puff pastry, you can, Pillsbury has some great product. You can use the croissant dough, you can use the pizza dough, you can really, it's up to you. Anything that's going to bake pretty quickly. I mean, didn't we just go through an era of learning to make our own quick breads? So we can do that, right? If you learned how to make puff pastry, go for it, because that's what this is, just a puff pastry. This one's a simple puff pastry, but it's really, really good with phyllo dough. I bought this instead of brie. The store I went to was out of brie, of course. So this is still a fermented cheese that is from Germany. This one's orange on the outside. The rind is orange, but it still has, it's the soft ripened cheese with the rind. So with brie, you still eat the rind. I can't open this, I'm sorry. So we're going to cut this into 6 even little triangles. Okay, you're just kind of shove them in there. Just get all this out of the way. Okay, so these are my toppings. I have some candied ginger here. I buy it in bulk. I just really like it. I used to avoid candied ginger. I realize how good it is. Really, really good. It's a little bit hot, sweet, has a really nice balance. So on this one, we're going to do a little bit of candied ginger, a little bit of apricot jam, put a tiny little bit of pecans in there. This one, we're going to do apricot jam, and we're going to do capers. So good. It doesn't sound like it would be good, but it's really, really good. So then here we're going to have some more ginger, some more pecans, a little bit of jam. In this one, we're going to have some, this was a re-gift. It was great. So a friend of mine got this balsamic fig almond spread, and they didn't like it. So they gave it to me, and I am super excited, and I've used it in a bunch of things. So here's a little bit of fruit. Here's the balsamic fig almond spread. Put a little bit of pecans in it, and let's put 2 cranberries in there. That should be good. So now you just pinch that all closed, and it doesn't have to be perfect because they're just all going to cook in this all by itself, right? And you're just going to cook this at about 375, 400 degrees, just until they're done, about 15 minutes. It just depends on what your oven's at, or if you're going to put it in with the turkey or a pie or whatever. These are best if they're served hot. So then that's with this one. So if you do the whole round, and this one has nuts and cranberries and some more balsamic fig almond paste in it. And so this one I cooked for 15 minutes at 400 degrees, and I put an egg wash on it. So you can come here, and yours are going to be much prettier than this. You put your egg wash on here. And so now these are all individual. So everybody can have it on their own little plate. Nobody's touching the same knife. Because, that's part of the fun of appetizers. Who doesn't love appetizers, right? So that's just a regular egg wash there. And then I made these cute little leaves. Super easy to do. I just cut them with scissors. I'm not very good with that. My mom is really good at making little decorations. So you would just decorate this one's 2 little leaves. Maybe we'll cover up the opening on that one. That's what we'll do. We'll just cover up the openings. There we go. And then so now those are all done. And so now we take them to the oven. 400 degrees up to 15 minutes. You guys remember this timer? We're going to do 10 minutes the first time. Okay, cranberry sauce. So much easier than you think, and it's really easy. You don't need a recipe. So I have 3 cups of cranberries here. And for every cup of cranberries, I put a little clove in there. So see these little cloves? They have the little flower on them. So I put 3 of those in there. And you just have to remember how many you put in there so you can tell people there's 3 in here. 1 cup of sugar. So for every cup of cranberries, use 1/3 of a cup of sugar. Okay? Then for 3 cups of cranberries, I use 1/2 cup of orange juice and 1/2 cup of water if I have the orange juice. If I don't have orange juice, I'll use oranges. And if I don't have oranges, then I don't use anything. Okay, so then I just use a whole cup of water. Then, if you like the cinnamon, just put a cinnamon stick in there. Okay? And then, this is really hard, you put the lid on it and you put it on the stove. Very easy. So, oh, I have bread on the stove. So we'll do that in a minute. And you can just let that cook all day long. You can do it yesterday. You can do it, I think, probably maybe 4 days in advance. I don't know that I would do it any further than that. So some of you know that half the week I live in Los Angeles and half the week I live in San Diego. So anything that I can do to work smarter, not harder, I'm about doing that. So normally I make my own bone broth every year for as long as I can remember. I've always bought 2 turkeys. And I take the first turkey and I just butcher it. And I make soup with it. You know, I make my bone broth for the day, for my gravy, for everything. I obviously didn't have time this year. You see my turkey over there sitting in the sink. But we're not going to work on him yet. Okay, so theoretically our cranberry sauce is cooking. We've started our baked brie. So the classic stereotype green bean casserole, right? I actually really like it. So here I have 4 cups of green beans, fresh green beans. And you can use any kind you want. You can use frozen. You can still use canned if you'd like. I happen to like it this way. So I have a cup of milk, and these are some alterations that I made for my family that my family likes. That doesn't mean that your family's going to like it, and you can do it any way you want. There's recipes everywhere for it. So it's the can of cream of mushroom soup. Again, I used to make my cream of mushroom soup. It's actually really easy with an immersion blender. You just cook some mushrooms, saute them, and then you cook them down with some cream, half and half, and then you just blend it until it's smooth. And for cooking, it's perfect, but the consistency is a little bit different. So you just kind of get as many of the chunks out of here as you can. Here's some of the changes. Here's a teaspoon of soy sauce. Oh, you know those soy sauce packets that you got that you thought you were going to use? Here it is. Just use 1 or 2 of those. And then onion powder. I put onion powder in mine. And then a little bit of ground black pepper. So a teaspoon of onion powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. And you just mix that up. And that's, mixed up enough, you're going to cook it. 1 bean doesn't want to come out of there. So now you just mix this all around, and it's really good. And it's all chunky right now, but it's not going to look like that, I promise. So then always remember to spray your pan before you start. It makes the cleanup really much easier. So now we are supposed to put some of these in here. I put a few of the French fried onions in here, and you can use any brand you want. They do taste a little bit different, so use the ones that you like. But I just found out that some of them have sugar in them. So I just scoop all that in there. Now this is going to go in a 300 or 375 degree oven. Just smooth it out. Try and get all the juice, all the sauce all together. So see, this is a nice family size. You'll have a little bit of leftovers. This you're going to save for when you take it out of the oven. Okay, so we're going to take this and we're going to put it right now with our appetizer. Okay, so what we know is that has 5 more minutes. It's going to cook for 30 minutes. There's all kinds of time, and you can put it, change the temperatures, you can take it out, put it back in later, however you want, but these are going to go on top for the last 5 minutes. Okay, let's talk stuffing. There's a lot of choices that you have. Anybody that knows me knows that I don't like to throw away food. So I have 2 teenage boys, and they eat a lot of bread. So I save heels. I save bread that they didn't like this bread because of the shape. So I just put it in the freezer. And I just put them in bags. So if you go to my freezer, I have all these little bits of odds and ends of bread. So you can also buy bread like this, but I don't like this particular style of doing it. If you're in a hurry, this is great. This one is unseasoned, so I control the season, the salt, all the preservatives, and they are all perfectly cut. But they're also all one type of bread. So my favorite thing to do is, this one I picked up for Pastor John's French toast. This one's a brioche. It's a little bit sweeter, so if you like your stuffing a little bit sweeter, use a couple pieces of this. This one is a corn rye. Sometimes I use a deli rye. I use a marble rye. Whatever is on sale. And they're always going to have this stuff on sale. And then you put it in the freezer. It's stuffing. You're going to dry it out, right? Here's a pumpernickel. I love pumpernickel in my stuffing. And then this one is new. I thought to use this year is a rosemary sourdough, right? How could you go wrong with that? So that's what we did. And so we have these 2 trays of stuffing. See, they're all nice and hard. I put them in the oven for 180 degrees, and then I usually bag it up and just leave it sitting in the bread area. We literally have a bread area in our kitchen. It's not a bread box. So I just leave it sitting there in Ziploc bags, and it stays nice and crispy. It stays nice and dry. What's it going to do? It's not going to get any more stale. So we have our bowl that we're going to mix the stuffing in. So here I have onions and celery. So I have 1 large onion and I think almost a whole head of celery. So then you just take your bread. It needs to all get in there, and I am throwing this bread all over the place. And remember that stuffing breaks down, right? It gets smaller. This is for savory, but again, a lot of you know that I make bread pudding. Same idea. I say the brioche or any kind of bread that goes on sale. Not sourdough so much, but French bread. See that beautiful pumpernickel? And then when you get a dark rye, oh, it's so good. And it adds a different dimension altogether to your stuffing. And it is homemade, and it tastes homemade, and it's really special. And I grew up with this. Okay, so we have our celery and our onions. And you know what always goes really, really well with bread, right? Butter. A cup of butter. You just pour that right on there, and it's going to make you nervous, and you're thinking, there's no way. It is really, really good. Then you stir it up a little bit. And go in, use your hands. You know how I feel about using our hands. I think that's the greatest thing. Summer savory, you're going to use a tablespoon of summer savory, about a teaspoon of rubbed sage, and just under a teaspoon of thyme. You know, if you don't want to buy sage, savory, and thyme, if you get a good deal on poultry seasoning, those are all the same ingredients. There's a little bit of mustard in there. There's some other spices, but all in all, the majority of it is thyme, so you'll still get that flavor. So then you're just stirring this all up, and you're trying to get those onions to the top. By the way, I don't stuff my bird. I used to stuff my bird, but it takes longer to cook. So it's just too hard because you have stuffing that was in the bird, stuffing that wasn't in the bird. You never know which is what. So it just became a lot easier for me for the size of the parties that we used to have is I would put all the stuffing in a tray. And remember that bird that I took apart a couple days ago? Well, I take the drums and the thighs, and I take those and I bury them in with the stuffing. So now, instead of having a bird stuffed with stuffing, I have stuffing with pieces of bird hidden in it, right? So you do that. Here's my mom's secret. Well, it was a secret till today. So she takes some leftover baked potatoes and she just puts that little bit in there. And for all this bread, I'm just using 2 tiny little potatoes. And then the dogs love the peel. So we don't throw that away. And we just put this in there. And you know what? I don't know that you're going to notice that it's in there, but I always notice when it's not. And that always reminds me of my mom. And you know, that's what Thanksgiving is about, is family. So we don't necessarily know why Mom cut the end off the ham or why she put the potato in the dressing, but we do it because she did it, and that makes it wonderful. Okay, so again, typically something's done. So again, typically I make my own bone broth with the turkey that I took apart last week, but we didn't have time to do that. So I bought some chicken bone broth. Chicken and turkey, they're kind of close. They're not the same, I know, but you can get away with it here because you are going to have turkey gravy, right? And again, you're just going to mix that up. Now, how much broth you put in there depends on how dry or wet you like your stuffing. Some people want their stuffing to be like bread pudding. That's fine. It's just however you want it. If you put too much in there and you keep stirring it, you will wind up with mush. So we're going to put a little bit more in here. So it feels like, I think I've used about 2 cups. Yep, I think I've used about 2 cups. That's a 4-cup container. And then I think I forgot to put pepper in there. So we're just going to put a little bit of pepper. And in this one, because I didn't use the homemade broth and I used a commercially made broth, I'm not adding any more extra salt to this. We don't eat very much salt in our family. So, but if you guys like salt, by all means, put some salt in here. I use Himalayan salt when I salt things. Okay, so that's done. Now it's just ready to either put in your bird or put in the pan and put in the oven. So here we have about 5 pounds of potatoes. And that sounds like a lot, but my boys love mashed potatoes, as does my husband. So here we're going to put a healthy portion of Himalayan salt. And that was cold water. I just cut the potatoes in quarters. I use small potatoes. And I don't peel them because, well, let's be honest. It is healthy. It's also a lot of work to peel them. And it's better for you to eat the peel. So I just leave them on there. Okay, so now, as promised, here's our cranberry sauce. I didn't even stir it. All I did was put it on the stove for about 10 minutes on medium. And you can see how it's all bubbling and it looks really pretty, and the cranberries are all still really whole. And then you just give it a stir. And cranberries have natural pectin in them, and that's what makes it a jelly. So here, well, and the sugar, cooking the sugar probably helps make it thicker too. So here, now I have pretty whole cranberries. So I'm thinking that that's actually done. So what we do is I turn that off, I put the lid back on, and then I push it to the back of the stove, to the very back, and honestly, it keeps cooking with the heat that comes out of the stove. So make sure that every once in a while, if you leave it up there all night, that you do remember to turn it around. Also, if you like your cranberry sauce warm, then it's fine to leave on the stove. But if you want your cranberry sauce cold, I suggest you make it yesterday. Okay, so we've got the green beans bubbling away in the oven. We are done with our appetizer. We have our stuffing ready to go. We have our mashed potatoes started, and we're finished with our cranberry sauce, right? So we're going to start on this bird. So my son, again, use what you have. I bought apples for our apple pie, and my son dropped some of them. This apple is so mushy and bruised. So we're going to put it inside the turkey, and that will help tie in all the flavors that we're using. I don't put fruit in my stuffing. I don't put oysters in my stuffing. I just don't do that. So now we have some apple in the bird. So we're just going to get this open. And I thawed my bird out in the refrigerator for 3 days. And then I let him sit in the sink for a few hours. So many stories. Remember to take all this stuff out. The neck. And then in the other side is where they usually put the giblets, the liver. So, you know, from some of our videos you've heard, we have these big dogs, right? My big Mastiff will not eat raw chicken liver. She will eat it if I cook it, but she will not eat it if it's raw. How's that for a picky dog? So you're going to go ahead and you're going to rinse out this bird pretty well. And you can unhook their little legs from the plastic truss that's on here. But you just want to be safe and give it a nice good rinse. Pull off any feathers that you find that are still on here or anything. And then I always pull out the little thermometer, the plastic thermometer that comes with it. I think by the time that pops out, the bird's already overcooked. Sorry about my sink, it's automatic. It thinks it should just turn on whenever it wants. So I'm going to put my bird back in there. So don't hate me for this, okay? I know it's a huge cheat. It's huge. But smarter, not harder, okay? I use turkey bags. I discovered them about 10 years ago. I'm not going to lie, folks. I love them. I think they're great. So then now you have to decide, are you going to stuff your bird or not? I personally am not going to stuff my bird. Well, not with bread stuffing. So we're going to bring him over here, not next to the appetizer. Okay, so we're going to leave him right here. Okay, so now I'm going to put this bird in the bag. I think our green beans are ready. Then that apple that's so mushy. Oh, he just killed that apple. Okay, so just stick that right on in there. If you have some garlic cloves, you have the ends of the onions, stick them all in there. It's great. You have a rosemary bush out in your front yard, put some branches of that in there. Okay, then, okay, so now we have this bird. We're going to put him up here. Okay, so I forgot to melt the butter. I always like to put another stick of butter on the bird, and I like to do that before I season it. And I also forgot to season it before I put it in the bag. So that's one of the reasons I don't like stuffing it, is it is so hard to get in that bag. But honestly, I really, really like the bag. So when you put your turkey in the bag, you got to put about a tablespoon of flour in there. So I guess we can just do that now. Here's a tablespoon of flour. Just to put that in the bottom of the bag. I just forgot all of it. Anyway, so then you want to liberally put some salt inside the cavity of the bird, because that's where that flavor is going to come from, is the inside. So you want to remember to liberally salt the inside of the bird. So I hear my butter. Which I just melted it for 30 seconds. And let's put it in the pan, because if you forget to put it in the pan, after you've seasoned it and put all the butter on it, you have problems. I do this backwards every year. I don't know. So, okay. But we do get it all on there eventually. So here's the butter. I'm sure there's people that are just saying, no, that's not the way you do it. And it's probably not. Wait till you see what I'm about to do to it. So you put all that butter on there. I'm going to leave a little bit of butter in there. Remember that poultry seasoning I told you about? So I buy a lot of it. So we're going to sprinkle a little bit of that in there. I put a little bit of pepper on there. Not too much. You don't want it to burn. Same thing with the garlic. You don't want to do too much. You don't want it to burn. But we like the flavor of the garlic on there. Some people don't like it. You don't have to use it. It's your bird. You cook it however you want. Okay, now you have to decide, are you all done putting everything you want in this bag? And yes, I understand that that mostly applies to me. Okay, I do not like dry meat. I don't like dry meat at all. A lot of people complain about turkey because they like white meat, but they don't like dry white meat. But they also like it cooked all the way, right? I know. A lot of people aren't going to like this next step. We love it. Take your bird, turn it upside down. Okay, now we're going to season this side. Just open up that bag, and we're going to pour in some more seasoning. And maybe, I know the family doesn't use salt, maybe we'll use a little bit more Himalayan salt. Okay, now you make sure everything that you want is in there. You can truss those legs back into the little plastic truss that's in there. So hard to do anything with a glove. Okay, so now everything is in our bird. I swear it looks like a garbage twisty tie, but it's not. You're just going to put this on there. And then I cook this bird. And here's why I like this. And this is the part you're really going to like. So, okay, I'm cooking my bird what you consider upside down, but we're considering it perfect. And then you find a way that it's going to be good for you. I probably should have put the rack in there. This sounds crazy. Now you cut a couple of little slits in it. Right? Why did I just put it in a bag? I don't know. Anyway, I do 5 little slits. Okay, now you're going to take this bird in the bag and the pan, and you're going to put it in the oven 400 degrees for 20 minutes. And then you're going to turn it to 375 degrees. And you're going to cook it for about 2 hours.